Okay, what we are going to do today is we are going to talk about speed and velocity notes. So you should be on the back of the second page of this, and it should look something like what's on the screen now. So to start off with, what speed is. So speed is just how far you travel and the amount of time that it takes. So it is basically your distance over time. When we talk about speed, speed is just a scalar. And remember, with scalars, these have a magnitude only. So they have no direction to them. Remember, magnitude is just a number. Instantaneous speed. So if you're doing something this instant, you're doing it right now. That's how I remember it, because you've got your base word there, instant, right in there. So if you're talking about an instantaneous speed, you're finding the speed at that moment. So if you're driving in a car, in order to come up with your instantaneous speed, your speed at any given time, what you're going to do is you're going to look at your speedometer. Remember, your speedometer is the thing here. We got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So this is your speedometer, speedometer. Average speed. So in order to find the average speed, so it's how long it takes you to travel over the entire distance. And it takes into account every time you stop and start and speed up and slow down. And so in order to find this, what you're going to do is you're going to find your total distance and put it over your total time. Okay, so if we look at the next part. So if you look to your right, so our formula for speed, so S equals d over t, where S is your speed, d is distance. And remember, if we're measuring distance, it's going to be in meters. Typically, it can also be in kilometers or millimeters or centimeters. It can be in any unit of distance. And then we have time, which is t. Remember, typically we measure that in seconds, or we can have it in hours. So that leaves our unit for speed. So when we're looking at how to calculate speed, speed is distance over time. So when we look at our unit for distance, it's meters per second or over seconds. So M over S is your unit for that. Now, when you look down below at the triangle, so when we go to do all these calculations, you can use these triangles to kind of help you with the math on this. So if I just draw mine off to the side. So we're going to put S down in the lower left-hand corner, D is in the top, and then T is going to go there. So the way that you're going to use this is, let's say, for instance, I'm looking for speed. I'm looking for this. So I would actually cover this up with my hand. And what I'm left with is I'm left with d over top of t. And in math class, if you have one thing over top of the other, you're going to divide. Same with, so if we look at time, if I wanted to try and find time, I would cover that up. And what I would end up with is end up with distance over top of speed. So I'm going to be dividing distance over speed. And then lastly, if I want to find distance, it's going to be s next to t. And then again, in math class, if you have two things next to each other, you're going to multiply them together. Now, for each problem that you go through in work, you have to write out your formula every single time. This triangle is not your formula. For example, if I asked you what is the distance of something or how far something travels based off of speed and time, the formula would be distance equals s times by t. You would not draw the triangle. You would draw, or you would write out the actual letters. All right, so now when we move on to the bottom part, we're going to look at velocity. And so what velocity is velocity is going to be a vector. And with vectors, remember, they need a magnitude and a direction. And remember, we can represent vectors with arrows. And so what velocity is displacement over time and so that's how the key difference between speed and velocity. Speed deals with distance, velocity deals with displacement. Remember, those two can be two very different numbers. If you look to the right, you have another box that says velocity. Let me erase everything on the slide. And so over off to the side, you have, oops, not my pen. You have velocity written already. And then you have this box. So in here, we're going to put our formula. So V equals x over t. And so as we're looking at this, what V is your velocity, which is going to be measured in meters per second. But you also, remember, need to have some sort of direction with this. X is going to be your displacement. Which is measured in meters. And t is time, which is measured in seconds. Again, just like with the speed triangle, we have a velocity triangle underneath it. And so we have velocity is down in the corner, displacement is on top, and time is down below. And so just like before, if you're trying to find displacement, it's going to be velocity times time. If you want to find time, it's going to be displacement divided by, if I can get it to draw. And then if you want to find velocity, it is displacement divided by time. So we'll pause it.